money. I hear what they say.
There you go. Sorry. The more problems we see.
This show's about money. If nobody knows it, it's about money.
Hey, y'all. Welcome
Dollar
to Cross
bills,
Politics on
y'all.
the Fight Laugh Feast Network. It's January 2025. So we're, everyone's thinking about New Year's resolutions and plans
Not me.
for the year. You don't do that?
I did, actually.
You don't do that?
Yeah, I did.
But before we get there, my mom and sister got me a couple
Speaking of money.
Speaking of money.
Gold.
See this gold watch? See this gold it's not real. It's not real. It's not even it's not even close to
I already knew that.
It's not even fake. It's a fake color, too.
It's barely metal.
It's barely metal. But my mom and sister were having some fun for Christmas, and they got me this Trump watch.
It's Trump?
It's Trump.
Yeah, it's him with the fight.
Oh,
It's actually kind of cool.
Oh, my goodness.
When I looked at it, I was like, I'd rock that. I actually need to put that image on my
It's probably
Apple
going to
Watch.
work for like
Look at
another
that.
2 weeks or something like that.
Can you zoom in on that? You can't zoom in on that, can you? I don't know.
Maybe not. Yeah,
Other one. There we go. Oh, no, you can't see that.
But the other thing my mom got me was, or my sister, I can't remember who gave me what, but a Good Night Trump. This is a parody. I don't know if it's really a parody for them.
Based on Goodnight Moon.
Based on Good Night
Oh,
Moon.
no.
Yeah.
You're not going to read this, are you?
great
In the very
classics.
classy room, there was a golden mirror and a silver spoon and a broadcast of, hang on, hold on, I got to turn the page. And a broadcast of a half-baked story from a fake newsroom. And it's got Sean Hannity.
Oh, wow.
Fake newsroom. You mean like CNN?
Yeah.
And there were billionaires sending their thoughts and prayers, and a pair of manly mittens, and 2 grabble babble kittens, which is actually kind of prophetic because
With the kittens.
so the whole kitten thing.
Yeah.
A big beautiful wall and a Russian nesting doll, a golden seat for tweets in a rush, and a pretty young bunny whom money has hushed. Talking about
Oh, I get it.
a good night classy room, and then here's Trump's room, and it's good night and all that stuff. So,
All right.
so
That seems like it's enough. That's enough.
it's
Thank
not,
you.
yeah, it's not, no, 100%.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. Thank you for pulling the plug on that one.
I think I know where it's going.
Good night democracy
Oh,
at
man.
risk, and good night blame game politics.
All right. Well,
Good night
how about
army
money?
of bots and trolls. Good night hole in the man-child soul.
All right, here, Gabe. Whatever
you
makes
go.
you stop.
Yeah. So, good night, Trump. It's from 2000, I think, 18 or something like that. So pretty,
What's wrong with you
Oh, my
people?
goodness.
pretty funny.
Today's culture shifts like sand, but New St. Andrews College is established on Christ, the immovable rock. The college is a premier institution that forges evangelical leaders who don't fear or hate the world, guided by God's word, equipped with the genius of classical liberal arts and God-honoring wisdom, with a faculty dedicated to academic rigor and to God's kingdom. New St. Andrews College offers an education that frees people. Logic and language, hard work and joyful courage, old books and godly professors. New St. Andrews College provides time-tested resources that can equip your student for any vocation. To find out more, visit NSA.edu.
I feel God right there.
No, thank you, Knox. That's
Money.
Yeah, I think you should play
No,
the money
Gabe. No,
clip.
you
Play the
done
money
ruined the
clip.
whole. Okay, here we
I want to hear it again.
just for Joe.
money.
It's the Trump anthem for the love of money. That's Bone Thugs and Harmony.
I didn't even catch them all. I didn't know what's going on when it first started, so I wanted to hear it again. Yeah. Joe, our friend Joe, grew up in Southern California as the son of an OPC minister.
How about that?
Oh, so he doesn't know any of these songs.
and he survived.
He's doing just fine.
As did I.
Yeah.
I'm also the son of an OPC minister, and in fact, he's the grandson of Dr. Joe Garrisi, who was on the board of Westminster West Seminary.
Yeah.
He was homeschooled before it was legal and cool.
Yeah.
He met his wife Lydia at Covenant College,
Ooh, how
and
about
they've
that?
been married 30 years. In the Army, he was an armor officer, scout trained, airborne, and military intelligence officer.
Oh.
You better watch out,
We've
Gabe.
got to ask him about this Trump hotel situation.
He got to shoot many different cannons and machine guns and learned effective leadership and the backwards planning methodology for life.
There you go.
As a wealth manager for almost 15 years, Joe owns Backwards Planning Financial, and his team has won many awards, including leading the Eastern U.S. in production in 2024.
Wow.
Out of over 5,000 teams, he enjoys shooting, reading, lifting weights, smoking meat,
Oh, yeah.
playing cards,
Come on.
My man.
strategy board games, is an audiophile, and eating the glorious food that Lydia makes. Joe, thanks for coming on Cross Politic.
Good evening. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Absolutely.
There's
And
just a lot of guns in your bio.
yeah.
I mean, I've got tank shells and I've got guns in my office. So,
actually, I think we figured out a couple years ago when I think we first met in person that my dad was Joe's youth pastor.
Are you serious?
Wait, the OPC has youth pastors?
Yeah, one.
Oh, that's weird.
The U.S.
I used to have respect
for all the youth in the U.S. OPC.
I used to have respect for the OPC.
In Southern California,
okay,
they're a little more laid back,
They need youth pastors, man. How did you go from, it sounds like you kind of went from military to financial planning.
Yeah. So I've been in the love of how money works since I was in high school. The short version is that I had some money stolen from me when I was in high school, an inheritance. And so that kind of put me into a passionate reading just to make sure my family wasn't treated the same way. So on my breaks when I was running a manufacturing floor and in the military, I read estate planning books and tax books and investment books, very dry reading for most people.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it simply because, hey, I learned what happened when bad planning was done, and I wanted to make sure my family was not treated the same way. So it was a long progression of doing it as a hobby before I actually went back to school and do it professionally.
Mm-hmm. Now, why do I don't want to go backwards in my financial planning, bro. Making me nervous. Making me nervous there. Like backwards financial. I don't want to go back. I'm already there, man.
You want to go forward.
I can't go any more backwards right now.
Well, how do you know to go forwards if you haven't done backwards yet? Like the whole Bible itself talks about what is the end goal. Where are we going to be? Right? We are going to be in heaven after we die, and therefore, with gratitude, we plan back to today because we know the end result. And if in your finances you don't know the end result, then you're just throwing spaghetti on the wall and you're hoping and praying and you're very inefficient with what you're doing. Hey, that may be a good tool, but where are you going? How do you plan on using tools? That's where I come with the backwards planning. It's actually taught to me in the military intelligence world. What I had to do in my time in MI is understanding what the enemy was going to do before they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And then teach the local commander, this is what they're going to do. And so now you can develop your battle plan to defeat them.
Okay.
So we just bring that back into the financial world.
Okay. And now we're, this has nothing to do with finances. I mean, Trump is, inauguration's January 20th, which me and Toby, we should be there.
Yeah.
We got tickets from Amy Klobuchar's office.
Does she know?
Us and her.
Us and her. But we got him. Yahtzee. And, but okay, new president coming into office. Obviously, Biden. I can't, Greg Bonson, David Bonson in our last issue of the magazine argued that presidents don't really affect our financial planning, our finances. And I think he was taking a different angle on this. Obviously, I think he'd also recognize, inflation affects us all.
Sure.
Which the presidents and the Congress, when they vote for bills, stimulus bills, that obviously affects inflation. I think our grocery budget this year went up by 30% just due to inflation. Not because we're buying more, although we probably are buying a little more for sure. Our kids are getting older. How does do you think Trump's going to impact like our daily finances, my family's budget?
The individual of Trump or the ensemble of people that Trump will bring in?
Greenland.
Two different questions.
Greenland.
I think you should answer both of those. That's really good.
Yeah, both. I want to hear both.
Let's go conquer Greenland.
Yes.
We need to expand the U.S. Trump himself will have a minor effect, more so than previous presidents a few times ago that were able to write into various pieces into usage across the country immediately. Previously, like when we grew up, how did a bill become a law? It had to go through Congress and the Senate, et cetera. Things go faster now. But the ensemble of people he will bring will have massive impact. But there's a wrong understanding in the economic world on Keynesian versus classical economics. Mm-hmm. Most people, when they talk about economics and talk about how the government affects, is a Keynesian economic model, which is, hey, the government can grow GDP. Mm-hmm. No, it cannot.
Right.
The government cannot grow GDP. The government takes from somebody else, runs it through a filter, and then spends it. You cannot run things through a filter and have it grow because of the filter.
Right.
Okay. Classical economics, where we actually have freedom for the businessman, the middle income individual to start businesses, hire people, grow and build things. That's how you actually grow GDP. So when he goes and brings in new policies to drill oil and therefore bring down the cost of oil, which will bring down the cost of everything. Right? Reduce taxes on the middle class. So therefore we have more money to employ more people, and because we're giving less to the government. Right? If I pay less taxes, I can hire more people, and then they can use that money to affect their families and spend it locally. So classical economics allows freedom to fail. The freedom to fail is the same freedom to succeed.
Yeah.
That's what his ensemble will bring in, is more freedom to fail.
Okay, so Joe, I want to go back to 2024, and then I want to move into 2025. Let's just play this game that we're starting actually the beginning of 2024. What would you have told me to do in 2024 according to backwards planning? And then where would I be at by the end of the year? And then let's move on to your advice moving to 2025.
Sure. So there's no one size fits all advice to start with.
Shoot.
And I am not a stock jock. A stock jock, it says, I found a special stock. You should put all your money into here. Oh, now I found a new special stock. You can do all your money. Now that's churning. That's stock jock. I don't do that.
Right.
Okay. What I want to look at is the whole picture of your finances. What are the goals you're trying to achieve? So if you're saying, let me fill in some missings. Joe, I have $100,000 that I won't need for the next 15 years. I want to use this 15 years from now going forward. I'm also a part owner of a company. Now what can I do? Because my finances are taken care of. I have no high interest rate debt. I have my emergency fund in a right smart place. I have my will done, my powers of attorney done. I have my living revocable trust so that my kids can't hurt themselves. I have my guardian set up. Okay. I have the right insurance so that if I die or become disabled, my family's taken care of. And now I have money for long term. See, there's lots of holes you got to make sure you get done before you start doing things.
Yeah. I'm like, that's where the backwards thing comes in, where I'm like, I'm all the way backwards.
So let me come back. So let's say this. Well, if you own a company, okay, do you provide a retirement plan for your employees, right? For our employees, I have employees, right? We are responsible to provide for them a proper wage for the work that they're doing and benefits so that they can take care of their family. So is there a simple or a SEP or a pension or a 401k that you're providing? Great. Is there a match that you can do for your employees? Wonderful. So if you're young, all three of you guys are young, okay, in a vehicle that will grow tax-free for the rest of your life, your wife's life, and 10 years past the second to die. How about decades of tax-free growth so we can eliminate tax volatility because we don't know who's going to be in power next? What are the taxes that they're going to jack it up? And what if they increase tax rates? It'd be nice to have a lot of money tax-free. Okay. But what about, have you done your tithing yet to your church? Do you have a non-qualified account that you can put the money into in the beginning of 2024? Coming back to your question, Knox. Okay. 2024, because it's a joint account. Okay. And then I'm going to use it for my tithe, and we grew the money over 20% this last year. Okay. And now in 2025, the money's grown and we can give some of that line item to a 501c3. Church, okay, and then not pay tax on the gain. Do you like avoiding legally tax gain on your investments? I do.
So I thought that was good. I like that. I like that because I'm going to move to the next. Go ahead, Joe. I don't want to stop you. Please.
No, I mean I could keep going.
Yes.
So making sure that you have a will done. Here's a will is inexpensive compared to the cost of not having one. Everyone has a will. They may not know it. If they don't have their own, it's called dying without their own testimony, intestate. Okay. The judge in their own state, the judge in their own state will decide where their kids go if they don't have their own. For a few $100s, let's decide where your kids go and make sure they go to the right family if you die prematurely. Okay. Making sure that's done. Durable power of attorney. if your wife goes to the hospital and you show up and say, my wife's incapacitated, I'm here as the husband to act on her behalf. If you don't have a durable power of attorney, they're going to tell you to pound sand.
Wait. So even your contract with marriage, that doesn't work on that?
Yes, correct.
Whoa. How
was that the big controversy? Remember in Florida years ago, that woman was dying. She was a vegetable, and the state stepped in and said you have to take her off.
Terry Schiavo.
Yeah,
Yes,
that was years
that's right.
ago. Years ago.
Is that the law you're getting at?
I'm going into the right for a spouse to enact on financially and medically on their spouse's behalf. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is a simple document, but a marriage license doesn't give that protection for the spouse. Most people think they do.
Yeah. I've always thought that.
I thought since we became one flesh and before God and all his witnesses.
Because God created
Right.
marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been providing for my whole life. She's been spending my money, our whole marriage.
But Obergefell said that two dudes can do that too.
Yeah.
So that does kind of make
Marriage is obliterated.
Joe,
Yeah.
Joe, I got a question about my will right now is very basic, and honestly, all it is basically I've given my brother. If me and my wife die, my brother makes all the decisions.
Okay.
And I like that because my kids will be different. As they get older, everything's different. And my brother's wise, and I trust him, and all that stuff. I like that.
Good.
As opposed to maybe locking it into more of like a, static kind of thing for the next 20 years or something. But instead of handing the power of the will over to my brother, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know what you mean by locking something in for 20 years. I don't know of a tool that locks something in outside of your desired wishes. Like you can put money or assets into a trust. The most common is a living, revocable. You can move assets in and out. Living, it's a legal entity right now. Living revocable trust. That what this does is assets that are pointed at the trust when you die, they don't go through probate. Probate's a year-ish, and public. Everybody who wants to can see all your stuff going through there. You may not wish that. Living revocable trust is private and immediate. Okay, so you avoid all that pain, and then it's private. But then also, we all wish that our kids grow up as mature and et cetera, but 18-year-olds tend not to be financially mature. And if all you have is a will, when you turn 18, if you've done prematurely, your kids will get their share it's for them what they want to do with. With the living revocable trust, you have the opportunity to delay the release of assets at different ages and different percentages and et cetera. For that. So part of financial planning properly done includes estate planning, but also like, hey, you want to have legacy, right? We want to have legacy for kids to children and children's children, but understanding what does that mean? Okay. In previous circles, above our generations is, hey, if there's something left over when I'm dead, here, it's yours.
Right.
Okay. Or and I'm not going to need money when I'm in my 60s. Right? When our parents' generation die, if I still need money in my 60s, I have not been smart financially and done a good job with what God gave me along the way. That's not when we need money. We need money when we're young, when we're 20s and 30s and trying to buy our first house, especially in today's inflationary world, punching us in the face with the high cost of houses and the high cost of interest. That's when we need support. So how do we do that, right? If that's the goal, then how do you set up your assets so that way you have the opportunity, not the obligation, to give money at that time and to give assets? Okay. How do you set up your will so that way, hey, it's not going to hurt them.
Yeah.
Okay. But you also want to transfer when appropriate to the right people in the right time, in the right way. Right? That's how you develop a legacy plan.
You mentioned when we were talking kind of about kind of just practical generational financial issues. You mentioned that boomers, our generation before us, generally kind of hold on to the wealth and then they die and then they give away their wealth or inheritance or pass it down finally. And that was kind of actually a hindrance to the next generation. They hold on to the money, they turn 70 years old, 80 years old, whatever, and they pass away, and then the money, the inheritance comes. And I agree with that assessment. You see the RVs rolling around saying, I'm spending my grandchildren's money, in my RV kind of thing. So I agreed that assessment. But what is your thoughts and solution to that problem?
Being purposeful rather than as an afterthought, right? That if there's something left over, that's an afterthought. That's not a plan. That's not hey, I see my kids struggling. I remember how hard it was when we were young. It's even harder now because the difference in income versus the cost has increased over time. So it's even harder for young people to start. So being purposeful and set up your assets. Here's an example. We're just being very hypothetical. A non-qualified investment account. Okay, so every type of investment account is either qualified or non-qualified. Qualified tools are restricted by age. IRAs, 401ks, SEP, simple pensions, yada, yada. Non-qualified are unrestricted. Okay, you can use these like your savings account. You can empty your savings account right now without a pre-withdrawal penalty. That's a non-qualified account. You can have an investment account invested in the market. And if it's a non-qualified account, we can actually use it as collateral for a line of credit. I do this all the time for clients. We invest money into a non-qualified account, and then they use it to pay as a down payment. They use it to start a business. They help their kids starting out, but they didn't burn their investments. The investments stay in the market. And historically, the growth of the market has been more than the interest on it. So now they're actually gaining. Instead of just gifting money, you actually multiply your assets by understanding and strategizing how to use them ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's the same exact tool that you can use as step up in basis rules for tithing. You can, when the market crashes, you capture losses and write them off against your taxes. Non-qualified tools are amazing. You can create tax-free income out of them. You can invest in the privates, the private market, the private debt, the private real estate, et cetera, and grow your money at stupid levels.
Yeah.
I mean, these accounts are glorious if you're purposeful and start growing money ahead of time.
So I'm thinking of just, my family.
Yeah, we can tell you're doing personal. You're getting your personal financial counseling right now.
Yeah, I figured let's do this.
We're gonna see if Joe's worth it.
My dad's mom and dad were blue collar workers. My grandpa, my dad's dad, was a boxer and then pipe fitter. Kind of blue collar guy.
Yeah.
And wasn't really able to pass down anything to mom and dad. In fact, me and my brother and my sister are first generation college graduates.
Yeah.
So my grandpa never graduated from college and my dad never graduated from college. Now my mom and dad were able to help each of us in different levels, different ways. I mean, my mom and dad gave me my first down payment for our first house, our duplex, a long time ago, if you remember that. But the inheritance is not going to be exorbitant, coming. Sure. But thinking about trying to how could I do a better job? I still feel like I'm climbing uphill, and I still have a path that's difficult to be able to be in a situation where I can pass down a good strong inheritance to my kids even before I die.
Sure.
So just kind of thinking of that scenario where it's probably a lot of our audience is in that scenario where it's the covenantal thinking is awakening in my family. Okay.
Gabe, how old are your kids? What's the age range?
Yeah. I got 10, 12, and 14.
Okay. So when I was 8 years old is the first time I had a job. Okay. I mean, earning money outside of doing chores around the house, that type of thing. Which we never had chores around the house.
That OPC slave labor.
Pretty much. There you go. No, it basically was my dad was broker, then broke. And it was, Joe, if you want more than the basics, go get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yep.
Absolutely. I didn't want to live like that. Okay. I wanted to enjoy things and have a bicycle and what do little boys want to do? Okay. I bought my first shotgun, when I was 12.
Yeah.
I didn't buy it, but I went and got some money.
I bought my first shotgun, 20 gauge, single shot, single break.
There you go. Mm-hmm. There you go. Awesome. Okay. So, and I still have that. What I would suggest, one of the things that you can be doing with your kids is teaching them to work and helping them go to find work to earn an income. Start now. That's not coming out of your pocket, but it's coming out of your brain and coming out of your motivation for good for them for the long term. And then when they earn some money, okay, have them start a Roth IRA. You start a Roth IRA at 10, you look at the compounding, go look at the compounding of money. This is something you need to teach your kids, how compounding works. Oh, it's amazing. It's going to work against you or it's going to work for you. Yeah. Compounding is there. If you were not using it for you, it's against you. It's called the loss of time. Time is a coin to spend, and you get to choose how you're going to spend it.
Oh, that's good.
Take some of that money. Thank you. Put that into a Roth IRA when you're a kid, and that'll grow tax-free for the rest of their life and their spouse's life and 10 years after that. The amount of tax-free growth is stupid.
How much money do you need? So my oldest is 17. My youngest is 3, 4. How much money do you need to put into these IRAs to get started?
Did you start off on like $50 each or something?
Yeah, I'm wondering what's the amount that we really?
There's not a minimum to start.
Okay.
I mean, $5. You got let me start at $5. But you want a consistent amount. So here's another thing to teach your kids, please. Dollar cost averaging. We just talked about interest growth, dollar cost averaging, putting money on a regular basis into the market on a regular basis, every week, every month type of scenario. What's going to happen is you're going to catch the down markets, but you don't know they're down until years and months later. You can look back. Oh, I wish I would have put money in over there, but you don't know they're down. So if you put in money on a regular basis, you're going to catch the down and grow and buy more shares for those dollars at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, dollar cost averaging is glorious.
It's like Bitcoin.
Cool. No.
Wait, you don't like Bitcoin?
Well, currencies. Let's talk about the definition of currencies. There's multiple kinds of currencies. There's representative currencies. There's currencies themselves. Like gold is an innate currency, right? It has intrinsic value. Gold is an intrinsic currency. Shares of stock, deeds of real estate are representative currencies because they represent an asset behind them that are backed. Currencies that do not have a back are called fiat currencies. Okay. So what doesn't have a backing? The US dollar, Bitcoin. They don't have something behind it backing it up. Those are fiat currencies. I suggest that you invest in representative or intrinsic currencies.
Okay. So you don't buy the security of Bitcoin being its value being its security.
And its inability
that's circular reasoning. That's I am good because I declare I am good. That's circular reasoning.
I'm thinking of like the blockchain technology that's it's connected to.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
I understand. Yeah. No, thank you, because it has not stood the test of time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that part of it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about the security side of it has been the primary argument that I've thought has had at least a
like the inability to dilute and blockchain.
Right.
Those two things.
Sure, but the problem is who controls it. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. Is
God does.
It's a group of people. Sure. Okay. Sure. Yes. In every aspect. Yeah. But I would suggest that people buy things that stood the test of time. And then when they're on track for their goals, you go and stress test your goals. You kill yourself off early. Does the goal still work? Okay. Does market crashes? Does the goal still work? Tax increases. Does the goal still work? You force yourself to retire early because of various things. Does the goal still work? Once you have gone through, it's called contingency planning in the military, right? You go and stress test your plan, and then you have extra money. You want to go hit home runs? Hey man, go for Bitcoin, go into Forex, go into penny stocks, whatever you want, go for it. And if you hit a home run, good for you. That's great. There's nothing immoral about it.
Yeah.
I just would rather use tools that have stood the test of time.
Yeah. No, I hear that. Quick ad here, and then I've got I need to get some personal
I got some
financial counseling as well.
All right.
Because I know there's a lot of pastors out there.
Yeah.
And we're in a little bit unique situation, and so I want to get Joe's thought on that. But first, how can we seek out the capital T truth in a society struggling with subjective truths? That is what the Classical Conversations podcast, Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortons, is all about. Relying on the tools of learning From the classical model of education to guide his conversations, Robert Borton, CEO of the world's leading homeschool support organization, dives into weekly conversations with important thought leaders on critical topics related to the Christian faith, education, business, and culture. Listen to Refining Rhetoric wherever you stream podcasts, or simply learn more about the show at classicalconversations.com/FLF. I just want to say that's a good ad. I mean,
it is.
I mean, we do classical conversations. That's a good one.
Did you see me and Robert Bortons have been kind of debating Corey DeAngelos back and forth on these last couple of days on school choice and there's a lot of big money going to school choice, and that's actually
I know they're trying to buy us.
Yeah.
And we're for sale.
It's on Twitter, so you can follow Robert. Robert's actually engaging with Corey and everything on Twitter. Yeah.
So Joe, I turned to ask for personal financial advice. But I'm curious. I'm a minister. I'm a pastor. I know there are other church leaders that are listening and watching this show. We have a large audience of people who are in ministry of various sorts.
Yeah. Who don't have any Social Security.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Some of us have opted out of Social Security.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways. We have a situation with the tax code where we're self-employed for certain things, and we're all that stuff. Housing allowances, these kind of things. What are some principles that you find yourself regularly sharing with people like me?
Yeah. So I was taught leadership in-depthly in the military.
Yeah.
So I want to bring that back to pastors, because people do as their leaders do, not so much as they say, but as they do. Okay, that's an integrity thing. If pastors are saying one thing and doing another, that's an integrity issue. But people watch what their pastors are doing. So what should pastors be doing? Well, they should be winning glory with their finances. Okay, the world has not been subdued. We still have a dominion mandate. We still have work to do. We have battles to win. One of them is in the financial world. And so parishioners will watch how their pastors do and treat their finances to see, do they really believe the Bible or not? Because it is the second most talked about subject is economics in the Bible. Mm-hmm. So if they are not controlling themselves, self-control, fruit of the Spirit, if they're not controlling themselves and actually using money to win kingdom and win glory, then why should they? So pastors need to be doing what they expect their parishioners to be doing, just like us leaders in every step, whether it's pastors or elders or business owners or fathers or mothers. We have people that follow us. And therefore, we should be doing what we want others to do. So when you talk to, hey, do I want to hire a financial advisor? Well, what are you doing with your own money? Are you doing what you recommend other people to be doing? Yeah. And if you're not, you should run away. Same thing with pastors. If you are not doing what you expect your parishioners to be doing, those parishioners should run away. So lead. We need to lead. We need to win glory by the battles in the financial world. Woo! What I do for a living is find out what people are really made of. If you ask me, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
What people are really made of. You look under the hood, you look at their finances. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, not this shiny, pretty veneer that we put on Sunday mornings. How are you? Oh, I'm doing glorious. Yeah. No, what are you actually doing with your money? That's what we need to be doing as pastors, leading with our money. Okay. Typically, pastors make less. Typically, not always, make less than others. Well, God's principles don't change for the poor or the wealthy. They are still the principles that we are to follow. We are to live within our means. We are to save our money. We are to provide for our families.
Nope.
What does it mean if we don't provide for our families?
Worse than unbelievers.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So pastors need to do.
So practically, that's the
that's his introduction.
Great exhortation. That's
introduction to what Pastor Toby was asking.
Like Toby, I mean, because I know you opted out of Social Security. Pastors can do that,
right?
And you need a plan for some sort of scenario as you get older, you can't work as much as you can. And, so how does,
I'm going to work till I drop over dead. Fall over dead.
But so how do you do that? You want some practical application of that is where I hear you saying. Okay. So, first of all, while you have a bunch of kids at home that are tax deductions and you're younger, okay, let's say 50 and younger-ish for broad brushstroking stuff.
Yeah.
You should be putting money into a Roth tool. Why? Because you're not paying a lot of taxes right now. Okay, because you still have all those tax deductions. You get housing allowance, that's tax-free. You got the kids, that's tax deductions. You should put money, not try to save money on taxes now, into a Roth, 401k, 403b, IRA, and et cetera. And so therefore now you're growing tax-free, and in retirement, you pay no taxes on the growth of that money. You pull it out all tax-free. Next, when kids get out of the house and you're in a higher tax bracket, I hope you move up the tax brackets because you're making good money. I hope you're being paid well. Okay, that's an honorable thing for churches, should be pay their pastors well. Yeah. Right. But also then put money into a non-ERISA 403b. Toby and you and I have a short conversation about this a little while ago.
Yeah.
Okay, a non-ERISA 403b for ordained clergy that maintain their ordination. You can put money in pre-tax, right? Reduce your taxable income up front. The money grows. You're not paying tax during growth. And when you pull the money out, you can pull out equal to your housing allowance tax-free. So that's now tax-free in, no tax on the growth, tax-free out. That's never taxed money.
Yeah.
That's only if you contribute to a non-ERISA 403b while you're ordained. So you can't take like traditional IRA money and move it in that you earned earlier from a job. Can't do that. That doesn't work. Okay, but you've got to have a non-ERISA 403b accessible for that. Okay, that's no joke to run one of those things. It's not easy type stuff. It's something we do for churches and denominations and scenarios. So you've got to have that available for ordained clergy. That's only for clergy, right? Not deacons, not other people, et cetera. But therefore, one of the things you can do is be tax smart. That's right.
Well,
that's right.
All I heard was go and get one of those ordinations online. That's all I heard. I'm just saying.
So one of the things you can be is tax smart, right? If you are tax efficient with your money, then your money goes farther.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I was talking about is tax smart of your money. Okay. Also, you can look at every line item of your expenditure and see if there's any way to be smarter with your goods while you're growing in your younger lives. Can you find a way to make a little more money and put that aside? Okay. Can you teach your kids to do the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Can your wives help? Okay. So how can the family unit make more money and then make sure you don't spend that Parkinson's law? Have y'all ever heard of Parkinson's law?
Only heard of Parkinson's
disease. It's a business principle. But yep, nothing to do with the disease. Parkinson's law, this is a business principle. If you go to business school, it's one of the first things they teach you. And that is work expands to meet the time allowed to accomplish the task. So you get a task to do, you get a homework assignment, you give your employees assignment. Guess what? We use all the time. All of us do. Use all the time we're allowed. So if you adjust the timeline, we adjust the work. But money's the same. As income increases, if you don't protect yourself from yourself, it just gets spent. Little coffee here, little extra there. It's just a couple bucks, but it all gets burnt if you don't protect yourself from yourself.
What does that look like?
So you need to. So you get an increase in income.
Yep.
Okay. Let's say you make 10% increase in your income, and let's say that's an extra $1,000 a month. I'm pulling numbers out of the air.
That's good.
Okay. So pull numbers out of the air, and let's say the cost of living costs an extra $200 because it does increase because inflation, which is a tax. Inflation is a tax and it's controllable. We can go into that. So
it's like Bitcoin.
Thanks, Gabe.
You're trying to get me.
Just having fun.
No, so take half of that increase and put it away. That $1,000, take half of it and put it away smartly into a long-term growth-focused, inflation-beating representative asset. Okay, there's multiple kinds out there.
Okay.
Be tax smart with it, and et cetera. Here's a tool about Roth IRAs.
I got an interruption there. Just it's I don't know if you got an answer for it. But it made me think of like, what if someone like me, I've made investments. And
This is about Toby, not about you.
I know. I'm totally
Wow.
Yeah. But this is I think this is a very practical question for most people in our situation, where it's like I do have some debt because of investments I've been making, and how do I get in a situation where I've taken a lot of risk, have some debt, also have a lot of potential in all the risks I've taken, but is there a way I can invest something like in a IRA or whatever, where it can accrue that can go help me also pay off some of those risky investments that I've taken, or that debt I've taken on from those investments?
Depends is the answer. That's a big question. So let me try to unpack it a little bit. First of all, what's the interest rate of the debt, and what's the probable growth rate of the asset? What's the tax position of the debt? What's the tax position of the asset? Like, you need to look at net of all of it. So if you have credit card debt at 25%, it's going to be hard to find an asset to grow past that on a significant basis. So therefore, kill the credit card debt. But what if you can reshuffle the credit card debt? So therefore, the interest rate is not 25, but now 3. Now you can go focus on investing and use the growth of the asset to pay off the credit card debt. So what's the interest rate? Can you move it around? It's called recollateralize. Move the collateral around to reduce the interest on the debt. So how to understand how to pay off debt. It's not just only debt. Focus on debt only. It's looking at a holistically of your assets. And then some types of debts are tax deductible in certain situations, the interest on them. Okay, so that's what I mean by looking the net of the interest, the net of all the positions. There's not a one-size-fits-all easy answer, but there is a way to attack it holistically.
So
am I answering deeply enough?
No, what you're doing is something else. It's like, what does it cost for a sit down with you? I'm just wondering, because this is really helpful, and everybody, I think, because I'm just listening, and everybody's in such a different place. And no one glove fits everybody, right? Like, this is
even though Gabe thinks his glove fits us all.
Absolutely. But because
I'm sure I can figure out how I can turn your counseling session into mine.
I know. We know.
Because there's a lot of things you've said that's been resonating. I've been thinking this way for a long time. When you don't have accumulated, I think it's a knowledge issue. When you're ignorant about things, and it's been that way generationally, and you say, okay, the buck stops with me. A lot of the financial information doesn't necessarily apply to you that people are talking about in the markets, because you have to get out of debt, and then you got to figure out how to accumulate wealth, and then you got a generation after that then can take some of the things that people talk about in the market, maybe be able to apply it. And so the process to get to some of the higher levels is understanding where you are. And so I'm realizing now at my age, I'm accumulating enough knowledge to develop wealth, but I don't have the time. And so I'm looking at it. And so what you said earlier was, if you have kids, now you have time that you necessarily didn't have before. And you can help develop them in a very young age, like you talking about with the IRA, Roth IRA, and other things, to help put them in a place where they can start applying this, where you might be able to accumulate. I got 7 kids. Right? And so, I'm thinking like, okay, well, in 20 years, me and you might be having a completely different conversation than, hey, don't get that, pay off that 30% credit card. Don't do that no more. That's a different conversation when you have, $150,000 in the bank. And when you have that kind of accumulated wealth because your family has done something simple, like made something valuable for other people to buy. Whether services or whether it's something that you're producing. And it seems like a lot of people who don't have but $4.23 in the savings account, supposedly.
Let's just say
that's the number. But then they need to figure out, for the most part, what is it valuable that they can produce with their families and themselves to be able to sell at a rate that allows them to do it over time and create wealth.
Right? What a glorious thing to teach your kids to love work. Okay. So, but it's not just teaching them. How about teaching them kid to love work and also how to manage money?
Right.
So when they're a young family, they have those skill sets and they have money to start with that they've been compounding for years. And maybe you start a side business. I was just talking to a local friend who wants to start a side business because he wants to have something for his boys that he can then give when they grow up.
Yep.
So he can teach them to work in the business, and he has a business to hand over to them in a legacy form. Right? There's multiple benefits of having side gigs, of earning money, loving work, working, but also working together. So parents and fathers can teach how to work. It's not just go to work for somebody else. Let me teach you by example how to do that, how to be honorable. What about the quality of work? Now, there's a pet peeve of mine. I could talk for days. Is the quality of the work for Christian business owners. We need to redeem that space. Woo! So what a wonderful thing we can do is teaching our kids to do that, and then teaching them how investments work and taxes. We can teach them about taxes, about being tax smart, because you can hire your kids if you're a business owner. Yes, there are things you have to do to make sure it's correct, but you can hire your kids and pay them through the business. And this is a deduction because it's an employee that you hire. Kids' tax rates are lower than parents' rates. So if you have a side gig,
Knox is doing the math. Knox is doing the math right now. He's like, wait a second. I got 7 kids.
That is real.
I got 7 employees.
I'm manning it up. One of them's here right now.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's I don't want to end here, but I just want to know what's your website people can go to right now, because I think this is fantastic and they should get a consultation with you. This has already been super helpful for me, and I've been thinking about these things for a long time. What's your website?
Yeah, backwardspanningfinancial.com.
Backwardspanningfinancial.com. And then I find this is the correct, I was just looking you up on Twitter. I was like, why am I following this guy? Joe Garrisi 1? Is that you?
Yes, I have 2 Twitters. I have a personal and a business.
But so people that are interested in this kind of stuff, though, they could follow Joe Garrisi 1.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. All right.
So, Joe, one of the other questions I had was, how can I pay less taxes? Wait. No. How can I pay, let's talk about tax strategy. Let's just talk about it like that.
How about stop tipping the government? How about that?
What do you mean?
Stop overpaying your taxes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So there's tax avoidance and there's tax fraud.
I don't want the last
tax fraud. That's illegal.
Yeah. I ain't doing that.
Tax avoidance is legal. Yes. Right. The tax code is thousands of pages. So the most efficient is not a straight line in the tax code. The most efficient, as in paying the least legally, is all kinds of twists and turns. Like we mentioned a couple ideas or multiple ideas. One, how to tithe by using step up and basis rules for your non-qualified accounts. Go put the money in the market, own it for more than a year and a day plus, and then you have a gain, give it to a 501c3 and pay no tax on the gain. That's step up and basis rules. Okay. But how about this? Why don't you invest in an ETF that buys futures in the S&P 500? And because the futures are the dividends of the S&P 500, you get income from them. That's a return of basis. Drive your basis down, get your big fat basis, but you don't care because you give it to the church and pay no tax on the gain. Would you like tax-free income?
Yes.
So there's all kinds of tax strategies. This is why I have a job, because the codes are complex. And they're changing and they're at different stages for different people.
No, keep going. If you got more, I want to let you just get that all out.
Sure. So yes, sir. So also one of your questions is, how do they consult me? Have a conversation. Initial conversations are free, although I get paid one of multiple ways. I get paid either straight up to talk. You want access to my brain, you write me a check. Okay. Also, if you want me to manage assets, we take a management fee. So a fee of the assets. Okay. The most common thing out there, we're a hairball underneath industry standard. We do that on purpose. Okay. Or their insurance is commission based. I'm insurance licensed for life, disability, long-term care insurance. So I can sell just about everything under the sun, every company, every product almost. Those products are fixed in price. Those are the ways I get paid, those 3 ways. So initial conversations do not cost. And those are about, are we a good fit and do we want to work together? Right? Business is done where it's positive on both sides, right? It has to be beneficial for both parties for good business. That's classical economics, right? For the free market, so that we can both grow.
Do you work
what I do is help people.
Do you work just with individuals or businesses too?
Both.
Okay. So then I want to go back to the tithing thing, because one of the things I heard, I heard this, it sounds like you're taking your tithe for a year and putting them into account, right? And not touching it.
Okay, so there's more to it. So there's actually 4 strategies the average Joe can do in tithing. And there's a 5th one once you reach the age of 70 and a half. One's called lumping, giving multiple tithe years in 1 year. And that's as an idea for 2026, because the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which is Trump's tax cuts, sunset at the end of this year, December 31st, 2025, if they do not get extended, if Mike Johnson's not a rhino and we get these extended. Okay, so we shall see.
Yeah.
Right. But if things stay as they are, the standard deduction is being cut in half. Right now, roughly 30 grand being cut in half for married filing jointly. So therefore, lumping, doing multiple tithing years will be more beneficial in 2026 than 2025, because you can blow through the standard deduction. Okay. But also, what if you have a non-qualified account? Remember, I was talking about non-qualified account, not an IRA or 401k, non-qualified account. You invest, let's say 50 grand and it grows to 75 grand, hypothetically, in just over a year. Well, if your tithe is 15,000 that year, that's what you decide. You take 15,000 out of the asset. And if we do average, just for understanding, 5,000 of that is gain. 10,000 of the money you put in, 5,000 is gain, and you pay no tax on that 5,000. So you use the stock market growth to help pay your tithe. By gifting, you have to give the asset to a 501c3, not sell and give. Okay, you have to understand, make sure you give the actual line item asset. You can do this with a car or a house or a piece of land. Anything that's an asset that's a long-term capital gain position and has a gain, you can give it to a 501c3, pay no tax on the gain.
That's helpful. Go ahead.
There are limits. There are AGI limits that you can do, which is only 60% of your AGI that you can actually give and get a tax deduction for it. And then only half of that can be appreciated assets. The other half has to be cash. So you have to understand AGI limits and how to move money and et cetera.
But that's what you're for.
But yes, that's what I do. So there's lumping, there's step up in basis, tax loss harvesting, and then donor advised fund. A DAF, donor advised fund, is one of the tools. You can say, let's say you want to give 4 years of your tithe because the market's up and you got a big fat bonus. You're going to have a really expensive tax year and the next years are not. So you want to do a huge tithe, but you don't want to give it to the church all right now. You open up a donor advised fund, a DAF. Okay, you go use your step up in basis from your appreciated assets, but boom, you put it into this account, you get your big fat tax deduction, and then the money in the DAF, you trickle out to your church over time.
Wow.
Okay. So and then if you're 70 and a half, you got money in a QCD is what you can do, qualified charitable distribution. Okay. Everyone who's 70 and a half needs to know this. If you're giving money to a church and you're 70 and a half years old or going to be, give it out of your traditional IRA. Traditional IRA didn't pay tax on the way in, and it's tax-free on the way out if you give it to your church, and it counts as your RMD once you get to that age.
Man, you need to go.
So now you can have taxfree on both sides.
You need to go speak at churches.
I do.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
I've offered. Yes,
Saturday night with Joe. Let's
go.
So, but the reason I was bringing
Pastor Joe. Right?
There we go. Yeah, that's it. So the reason I was thinking about that, Joe, is because it sounds like. Let's just say, like, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, wait a second, that's a whole year that I'm not giving to my church financially. Yes. So in one sense, it's kind of like, but it sounds like I'll be able to give more. But for that year, I'm withholding funds that they would probably be using for ministry. So it's a challenge there in one sense, isn't it?
Oh, so I'm talking about forward paying.
Okay.
Talk about in January, pay for the year as an example. Tell your church, this is all you're getting for the year. So do your accounting.
Yeah.
Okay. Accountants can do that easily.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So let's say you want to give it straight to the church. Hey, church, this is my tithe for 25 and 26, just to let you know. I normally give 15 a year. Here's 30. Don't expect anything from me for the next 2 years. Do your accounting appropriately. Okay. Just let the church know, type of thing, forward that. But if you use a donor advised fund, that tool I was talking about, you can just give monthly checks to the church and the church sees no difference on cash flow. But you give this nice fat tax deduction because you strategize how to use it.
All right.
Man.
All right.
This is what is, I mean.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to this show.
I mean, on the one hand, yeah, for real. I was writing down notes too,
me too.
I stopped writing. But, I think on the one hand, of course, we need a massive overhaul of our tax code.
Yeah.
Easily.
Simplify it.
And on the other hand, so, but we all, I mean, in a fallen world, we all have piles of dirt that God has called us to cultivate.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
to take dominion of. And some of our piles of dirt are covered in really gnarly thorns. And like this is one of the piles of dirt though that God has assigned to us until we pray for deliverance.
Yeah.
We pray for godly righteous leaders to stop scourging us with overtaxation and theft and all the rest of it.
Yep.
And in the meantime, though, this is called taking dominion.
Yes.
I mean, what Joe's describing is he's run out in front of us. He's taking dominion and saying, all right, here's how to avoid that weed. Here's how to make sure that weed doesn't grow into your garden.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's not ideal in certain respects because we don't want this code for our grandkids. But the answer ultimately to that problem is everything he's talking about. Mm-hmm. It's actually being faithful in your labors, teaching your kids to be faithful
how to work
in their labors, teaching them to love to work, knowing that they work for Jesus, loving the return on good work, and then learning to be faithful stewards with that return and with that work, all of these things, and then just being faithful with taxes, being faithful with, I mean, the stuff he was talking about earlier about trusts and wills. I mean, these are things that I think, again, it's like, we need to take dominion.
Yeah.
If we want to rule the West, if that's our prayer. If our prayer is that God would give the West to his people. Yeah. That he would give a great reformation and revival in the West that was once a Christian nation or Christian nations. Uh-huh. We have to learn to rule in our houses.
Yeah, that's right.
We have to learn to rule in our communities and in our businesses. And if we aren't being wise rulers with the resources that God has given us, he who is not faithful with little is not going to be faithful with much. Yes. We're going to be no better than the IRS. We're going to be no better than the Fed.
Why do we have them? Yeah.
I mean, like if we're just racking up credit card debts, if we are just saying I don't have time for that, it's not important to me, I'll get to that one day. Well, you sound just like the Fed. You sound just like Keynesian economics. I mean, whatever. Like if you are a conservative. If you actually believe in a free economy, then that means you believe in hard work. It means you believe in taking dominion and using your resources wisely. Yeah.
Joe, I want to give you the last word.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for being here. Really, I want to encourage fathers and mothers and leaders to lead with their finances in the small things. Okay, when you go and have a conversation in a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades with your kids and you say, hey, what did you learn from me? What are you wanting them to teach you? And do that now. Emulate that now. And so that way they can grow.
And
I'd be honored to have a conversation. If you want.
Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, if you want to have a conversation, I'd be honored to have a conversation with folks. If you're an accredited investor, that's when things get fun. There are types of investments we are able to do at that level that would curl your hair in jealousy. The rate of growth and stability in the private market is glorious out there, and that's how you make incredible leaps and bounds. But yeah. Would love to have a conversation.
Backwardsplanningfinancial.com. I just typed it in and up came a picture of Joe Garrisi.
Joe, you don't have a podcast, do you?
No, sir.
Why? Yeah, we'll work on that. We'll talk.
I am not. It's something that I've talked to about, and I'm not allowed to monetize it because of my licenses, because I have licenses to trade in the stock market for clients. So I love talking and teaching. To me, teaching is fun.
You don't. That's why you should have a podcast, and you don't have to monetize it for it to exist. It's valuable just on its own. Yeah, really, absolutely. So appreciate you, Joe. They're very thankful you're on here. Backwardsplanningfinancial.com. Go check it out. Yeah. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids, and if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.